Hey, it's 2 o'clock on the dot. We're on time for once. How is everyone doing? On YouTube, on Twitch? I want to welcome you back to Club Corbie, where we make comics every weekday from 2 till 4 UK time, and a bit of a change of plan today. We're not going to be inking, we're going to be cleaning up the art that we did on yesterday's inking stream in Clip Studio Paint, because, well, we'll get into it, but this is the art that we were inking by hand on yesterday's stream. Let me just move some things around so I can juggle things between the different monitors. There we go. So yeah, yesterday we inked this stream. We inked this page, and we did most of it, but we had to stop. I think we done at least the top 2 panels. I can't remember how much we did in the third panel. Didn't get to do anything in the third. So the story is that last night, yesterday evening, I started to ink this panel, and it's a bit of a mess. There's all kinds of errors, especially with Morgan's face. I just completely screwed it up. So I left a lot of this is, well, completed, I guess you could say now, but this panel was sort of left in a half finished state last night, and I just had to say I was exhausted, and you know, if you're exhausted, it's not a good time to be inking. Inevitably you're gonna mess up. So I came back this morning, did the best job I could in terms of trying to finish it off to the best of my ability. I'm still not entirely happy with it, so we're going to fix it up. So my original plan for today's stream was to just go on and start inking the next page, but there's so much work to do on this particular page that I think instead what we'll do on today's show is we will work on cleaning this up in Clip Studio Paint and just get everything up to scratch. So what have I done so far? Scan the page, use the binarization function in Clip Studio Paint to remove the blue elements of the art, so now we have a good, you know, just a plain black and white image. I've added the panels and had to rescale them a bit just to make everything work with the art. As you can see, there's a lot of sort of overlap with the art, and everything doesn't quite line up. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to start by laying down some guidelines, I think, just so we can try and get everything to line up. And I was under the impression that the borders were vectors, but they're not. They're clearly bitmaps. You can tell that by when you zoom in on them. So that is a bit annoying. For some reason I thought I'd created vector panels for the templates. Nevertheless, we will press on. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to switch that off. And we're going to pull this panel over. Just get everything to line up. Oops. Make sure you're in the correct panel. Correct layer, I should say. We'll fit that into there like that. Doing this is gonna let us keep everything aligned correctly, just to make things nice and neat. It's not entirely necessary. And somehow we've moved this one. No, that's very strange. Okay, I think what we need to do is, when we bring them all around, we need to make each of these a separate layer, and then we can manage them a bit more effectively rather than moving each of them. So, cut that, paste it, and same with these. It's kind of a very dull part of the process, but Yeah, we don't have to cut and paste that one, it's the only part that's left in that layer, so good. Okay, right. We can shut these off and we can move them all around independently now, which is better. There we go, that's close enough. Right, now we can get into the actual working with the art itself. Oh, these guidelines don't line up. Ah. What the heck was it? Let's just add a couple more then. As long as we have guidelines that just show us where everything should line up, that's fine. What we need to do is start working on clearing up some of this. We're going to edit. Oh, make sure we've got this set to white first. Edit fill or Alt Delete. And same with that up here. Alt Delete, we'll do the same thing there. We might have overstepped the boundary there. Okay. I got distracted there, sorry. I just realised that because we're set up on YouTube now, and I haven't been paying attention at all to what's happening on the YouTube stream, but let's get back to work. I just double checked and we are actually streaming on YouTube, although for some reason it says this is the April 30th stream. Of course it's not. Oops. Go on and wipe that out. Okay, so we've trimmed off a bit of the excess around the panels, and now we can go in and start to just do some more general sort of cleanup. Usually the way I do this is just create a new layer as a correction layer. Just take a white pencil. Or a pen even will do, as long as the anti-aliasing is turned off. And just start to blank out any areas that we didn't actually intend to be filled in. You know what? I think that this left hand side of the image might benefit from if we just fill in some black here down the side. I think what we'll do is we'll just add a little bit like that. we should be able to just use the fill bucket and we can fill that whole area in. And this little sort of rim area at the bottom, fill that in too. We'll just leave a small gap. Like that, that'll do. Okay, the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm just going to check some settings here. But the next thing that I'm going to do is go in and sort of trim some of the bottom areas of the art as well. Just there's going to be small areas where the bottom edge of the image doesn't quite meet up with the panel art. So what we will do is hold on, I've just got to tweak some things here off screen. I'm just checking some things with the stream settings. Okay, there we go. Right, let's get back to business. Okay, what we're going to do is go in and fix some of these small edge areas. Just going to use a small pen. Again, everything doesn't need to be perfect, but I just like to get a few of these to line up a little bit better. Some of these lines down the side here as well. It's going to auto save. You guys can't see that when I get this auto save message come up on screen every couple of minutes. And I'm sure I've complained about it in the past as well, but when you work in Clip Studio Paint, at a certain point it saves for you automatically, which is a good thing, but it sure is frustrating when you get to a certain point and you're in the middle of something and it just locks up because it's got to save. I don't think there's much as far as the actual art of Neiman and Maka themselves that I want to fix. So it's just you know, as I always say, we don't want to get caught up in the finer details. But see, this is the kind of stuff I'm talking about. We could go over every single pixel here and try and get everything to look perfect. We don't want to do that. You can make little corrections, join up some of these lines. We don't want to go overboard. One thing that I would like to fix is perhaps scale down these hands just a little bit. Just a tad too big and a tad too long. I think they would be well served to get downsized a little bit. Well, also before we start, okay, let's merge some of these layers. We'll merge all the art and the correctors to the art that we've done so far. It's going to take a second because this is a fairly high res file. Okay. Still locked up. What's going on? Now I have a blank screen in front of me. You guys, for some reason on stream, are seeing the actual software. There it goes. Okay, we're back. I'm going to merge the 4 panel layers as well into one. So we have a guide layer. We also have a blank layer. We'll fill that with white just now, and that's going to help us when we start chopping up bits of the image in a second. It's going to take a second to fill this big canvas. It's actually going to fill it with black because I didn't select the right colour, but we can easily correct that. Fill it again, this time with the right colour. Okay, there we go, finally. Now, we can go into the hands and make some corrections here. I would like to smooth this out a little bit. I'm going to go to transform, free transform, and then just hit enter. And I feel like that hand is a bit more proportionate now. For the other hand, we'll join some things up. Because we were working at a really teeny tiny scale yesterday, and it's quite common, especially with my inking style, to have a lot of gaps. Sometimes we have to fill in some of these gaps. You can only see 3 of the fingers, that's okay. Probably there's the 4th one's just out of shot just because of the way that they're aligned. We can be just tease the fact that there's a 4th finger hiding back there. And again, just go up. Transform, free transform, or control shift and T. And that is looking a whole lot better, and those hands are about even. Looks a bit better. Niemann and Maka are usually drawn as big, about the same height. So it should be a telltale sign when Niemann's hands were all the way down to there and Maka's hands are all the way up there. It's like something's gone a bit wrong, but now they're a bit more even. Actually, I think it's just the way that this image was laid out, but Maka's a little bit taller here for some reason. Again, just going to make some small corrections to the hands here. We don't need to close every gap, of course. That would be, well, not impossible, but goodness knows how many hours it would take. We're not trying to close every gap. What we are trying to do is just spot little areas where maybe it would be we can just tweak things just a little bit, close the occasional gap here and there, just tighten up the image a little bit, like this belt for example. There's a bit of a gap here. We can go in and we can make that correction down here. I wouldn't even say that these are errors in the strictest sense, because again, you know, if you were watching yesterday's stream, you know, the kind of the scale that we're working at. Some of this character art is we're dealing with teeny tiny images, and it's really just you know, where the pen sometimes is just raised off the page, and it just the ink hasn't been applied there. There are some areas like these parts here that are in shadow, and we can tighten up the shadows a little bit. I think that we could first of all, let's balance out this face a little bit by just creating a bit more of a gap on this side so that both sides are a little bit more equal. Make more of a gap down the middle of the nose as well. Balance out the shape of the top of the hair a little bit more. We'll try and balance out these weird little they almost look like horns that Maka has on the side of her head, but they're just sort of like hoops of hair that sort of pop up. When I designed Neemhain and Maka, I was really trying to adhere to that thing of trying to make their designs very distinctive and make sure that they have that thing going that you'll often hear people talk about in terms of design, where she had distinctive silhouettes. And so little touches like the very unusual, you know, the shapes of the hair all help a lot with that. autosave time. Saving recovery information. Recovery settings can be adjusted under preferences. Yeah, maybe I should. Right. Okay, I was choosing areas that I was going to try and make a point of closing gaps in. Let's go back and try and find any parts of the image that are, of the outline is going to be more critical, I think. Or this part of the hair that we can fix in it. But I feel like, as far as if we were going to do a miniature rendition of this particular panel from the end of issue 2, for what it is, it's a pretty good recreation of that. And it fixes one glaring error that I made, I think I talked about in a previous stream, which was that when we did this panel in issue 2 of Corbie, that Maka's gloves were the wrong colour. And I was kicking myself once I saw that. Obviously here they're not coloured, but you can see that they're different, that the upper part is dark and the lower part isn't, so I guess that qualifies as a retcon. We could I may be the only person anywhere on the face of the earth that is deeply invested in Corbie canon and continuity, but then I should be. It's my job to be kind of like, I figure if anybody's gonna agonize over, continuity errors and things like that in Corbie, it should be the person who created it, right? And if I'm not, there's the aspect of if I'm not emotionally invested in it, if I'm not passionate about these comics, how could I expect anybody else to be? I kind of feel like I have to be Corbie's #1 fan, just in principle. And that's a lot of what keeps me going through this, is nobody wants more Corbie content than I do. Nobody wants to see more new stories and see how things develop than I do. guess that could seem sort of self-absorbed or conceited, but the truth is, if anything, I feel like that I'm not worthy of the comic, to be honest with you. I'm not worthy of the characters. That they would be better off if someone else was making the comic. Yeah, you can see that a lot of these sort of blobs in the vortex behind them are not going to be filled in 100%. Some of them, just by their nature, are going to have little gaps in them. If I really went to agonise over things, I could try and fill them all in. But you know, let's draw a line under this at some point, figuratively speaking. I just say we've done a lot of work on this first panel. We'll move on and we'll work on the second. And my first reaction to the second panel right away is that, again, for some reason, Neefane has, to me, like a disproportionately huge hand. I think she's going to look a lot better if we just scale that down a bit. Okay. It's almost a case of where to begin with this panel, because this face of Neme's here is even tinier than some of the other ones that we've done, but we can do a lot to sort of correct some of this here. Just get it looking a little bit more on model. We have to make allowances for the fact that, you know, when we do this, this is literally, you know, a head that is about a centimetre high on the page. So, you know, a difficult thing to pencil and get a good likeness and get all the facial features in place. A really difficult thing to ink and get all the facial features in place. So luckily we have the technology and we can go in and we can start to just tweak some things. One of the things that we can tweak is we can work on the horns. A little bit thinner on this side. We can fix that. I don't even know that we need this little bit of the hair here. I think I just ad-libbed that bit yesterday when we were inking. We can widen out the hair a little bit here by doing that. I kind of think we could just knock out this whole side of the head here, just start to shape things up a bit. And get things looking a bit better proportionately. And really this still needs to be thicker just so that both sides match. Again, we have to remember when people are looking at the image, they're just going to see it as this tiny little speck on the screen, and odds are they're not going to be zooming in on it. The sound you're hearing in the background is me reaching over to try and find the pencil version of this image. And again, like looking at the pencil version of the mouth, I mean, you can't see it on screen, but the pencil version of the mouth is much more simplified than this. So I don't even really have a good guideline for what I was trying to do with the mouth originally. You can see how, as we sort of develop over every single element, once we zoom in on them, that very rough sort of pen art, the natural sort of bumps in the paper that you get with the pen image, you get a much sort of smoother line with the digital elements. You know, like the on the left hand side there, you can see the very rough lines, and then as I go over them with the digital pen, you get a much smoother image. But once we zoom out, you don't really see the difference as much. If anything, maybe you notice that this line's a bit thicker, but that's more of a function of the fact that the pen tool that I'm using might be a bit too thin. Well, I very distinctly remember this paint blob from yesterday, so we'll go and we'll get rid of that. And we'll sharpen up the spikes on the top of Corbie's head as well on the helmet. And again, we don't need to fill in every single gap. Sometimes a little gap like this one here creates the distinction between the Corbie's section of the character and Neemhane's. Helps to split the characters a little bit. Similarly, this line here, which is part of Neemhane's sort of skirt design, well, maybe we could fill this bit at the bottom, but the upper section, we can almost leave a little bit of a gap there where it runs into the Corbie's boot. On the other hand, the different parts of Corbie's boot up here, I'd be more inclined to try and make sure those are all filled in. And sometimes there might be some spots in the ink that would look better if it's a solid black. And back up to Neemhane again. We'll add a little bit of detail there. fill in this gap on the arm here. I think what we'll do here is we'll just sort of pull this up into the scarf. Darken a bit of the inside of the hair as well, just help to define all of these different areas. But with that, I think this panel is pretty close to completion. I do know I always dread saying that, because as soon as I say that I'll see something else that I want to fix, but you know, technically I didn't say it was complete, I just said it was close to complete. Yeah, okay, let's smooth this line out. Okay, let's keep going. We will move on and we will get started on the next panel, and there's some egregious bits and pieces here that I really need to fix up. Okay, right, let's go. My biggest bugbear with this panel, well, first of all, when it got cropped down to fit into the digital panels, we've lost a bit of art on the bottom, but that's not my big bugbear. My big bugbear is Maka's neck, which I think I just decided was a bit too thick, and then I started looking about with it when I was inking, and I just made a complete mess of it. So what we're going to do is, I think we're just going to blank the whole neck area out. We're going to redraw the whole thing. This was my first big screw up of last night. Whenever you're inking, you're always making lots of little small errors, and you don't think anything of them because it's almost just a part of the process. But when you make the big errors, those are the ones that really get you. And I find when you make the big errors, you know, you almost start thinking, well, what are my options here? I can suck it up and just accept that I made a mistake, and I'll have to fix it once we've scanned it all in, like we're doing now. Or you can sort of frantically try and course correct, which admittedly was what I did. That was the next thing that I did. It was once I realised I made a mistake here, I started to try and course correct. I said, well, maybe I can sort of draw into it. You can, if you've got some Tipp-Ex or some correction fluid, you can try and draw over it that way as well. Whiteout, I think it's also called. I don't have that, so I don't have that option. I don't have any. That's the old-fashioned way. You can, and I have done this in the past, just completely scrap an entire panel and say, well, I'll do another printout and I'll ink over it on another panel, another printout of the pencil art. And I did consider that at this point, but because it was just the one error, I decided against it. If you're very early on in the process, especially if it's like the first panel, you might just scrap the whole page and just go, this is going so badly, I'm just gonna pack it and I'll start again completely fresh, do the whole page over. The funny thing about it is, in actual fact, looking at the original pencil art, which again I've got in front of me, the neck was sort of thick on the original pencil art, so when I looked at it and it was inked and it looked wrong, a lot of that wasn't even that the inking was wrong. I think a lot of it was just that the art inherently had that problem sort of to begin with. So that's also something to consider. Yeah, maybe it's not that you inked it wrong. Maybe it's just the original pencil art had the error. Sort of a, well, we were only following orders sort of thing. Can try and make allowances for this stuff. I'm going to try and make the cut of the outfit sort of lean into the neck in a bit of a more natural fashion. These bits where it sort of angles up, the trapezius muscles. It's a bit of anatomy for you. If you've watched a lot of wrestling over the years, as I have, you sort of have an advantage when it comes to as an artist, because you know what all the body parts are and how they work and how to hurt them. To apply pressure. What was it Gorilla Monsoon always used to say? About the head, he had I'm looking it up now. I want to say it was the occipital protuberance. Yeah, that's right. That's what he would say, right in the occipital protuberance, by which he means. It's a fancy way of saying he hit that guy in the head. Anyway. We'll have a bit of shadow underneath the neck as well. Right away, that looks a lot better to me. I don't like to have to make endless corrections to art. I would rather have everything be right at the pen stage, but you know, old man Porter talking here. I remember when you did have to, any corrections that you made to a pen image in the days before computers, you know, you really were looking at Tipex or starting all over again. You didn't have the options of reproducing your image. I didn't even have, you know, when I was a kid and I was making comics, we're talking way back here, we're talking, you know, 1990s. I didn't even have access to like a photocopier. I didn't have the means to reproduce my work. So just, you know, later on, once we got into sort of the home PC sort of era, and you're talking like Windows 3.1 and, you know, getting your first PC in the home and getting your first scanner. And my first scanner was not even a flatbed scanner. It was one of those handheld dealies where you would just almost like a rolling pin, you just sort of roll it over the paper, and it was garbage, to be honest with you. It didn't even replicate very well, but it was sort of like, this is amazing, you can take your comics and you can put them on the computer and you can see them, and then you can, you know, you can do this sort of stuff with them, you can start to tweak them. Of course, in those days, computers were so low spec, so anything you did just made the computer crawl, because if you're working with high-res images especially. But it was a start. My point is more that You know, I don't take these things for granted, and I've gone back and forth over the years in terms of how much of my work I do digitally and how much I do analog, and I still like to try and find a good balance between the two. I'm not one of these artists who, you know, a lot of professional artists that I see now, they are all migrating to iPads. They're doing other work on iPads, and first of all, I'm never going to bend the knee to Apple, but I do love my Surface. I've had my Surface Pro now for years, and although I have certain quibbles with it, mostly that the stock chargers, the cables on them may as well be made of tissue paper. But I've had my Surface Pro for several years now, and it is a big part of my day-to-day workflow. But I think I'm still most comfortable just working analog and then doing what we're doing here, just make tweaks digitally. I need to sort of widen out this cheek still a little bit more. Still not entirely happy with the curls on the ears on this panel either. These are a bit too big. I'd also like them to be a bit further apart. I'm kind of creating a bit of work for myself because now I have to go in and sort of reconstruct all of this. Yeah, sometimes I lose track of time when we're on these streams. And that's definitely been the case today because I just looked at the clock and we've got half an hour left on the show today. And we did all that work on fixing up Maca, but we still haven't fixed Morgan, who's a complete mess. I don't know what went wrong. That was the real disaster. We talked about Maca, but Morgan was the point where I just, it just all started to go wrong there. So we might get to do that first panel today, or at least get started on it, but it'd be a shame if we don't get this all completed on today's show, because that was kind of my impetus for switching gears today, and I thought we were going to do an inking stream. Instead we've ended up doing a cleanup stream just because there's so much to do, and I thought it's going to be several hours of work here. We may as well do it on the air. You know what? In fact, there's no reason we can go in and we can make the biggest connection now, which is this face. I hate this. This face. The story behind this face is the mouth didn't look right, and I decided, well, you must have made it to one side of this. I started drawing on, and then it all sort of veered out to one side, and then it's like, well, now it's too one-sided, so start to veer out to the other side, and then she just ended up with this giant mouth. I don't know what happened here. What we're going to do is we're just going to blank it out. I'm sick of looking at it. I don't know if you've ever had that, if you've ever drawn something and you're so disgusted by it that it's actually kind of laughable. It's like we're gonna hit your north side face. Already that's a big improvement to fix this jaw up on this side, but I should just do that more often, you know. I should just start raging against my own art and just go, look at this stupid thing I drawn, isn't this be like ridiculous? I'm sure I'd get a lot more viewers that way. It would really raise the profile of the channel. I'll just, you know, I'll start every stream by just being like, welcome to Club Corbie. Today we're gonna fix up this stupid thing that I've drawn. I think that would get kind of tiring though. I don't know why I'm drawing in the ear here. We don't even really need that. There's no ear there on the original art, so Oh yeah, that was the other thing. The arm. The arm just ended up being a complete mess. And you can imagine that was the point where I just I was just like, that's it, John, what are you doing? Like, I kind of feel like it's acceptable when you're working at a really small scale to mess up like a face or something, but when I got to the point where it was like I was just doing arms really strangely and they weren't coming out right, or inking them I should say, it's like, John, all you have to do is follow the lines. And I tried to thicken it out and of course it didn't work. So, I guess really the moral of today's stream is very much the same as it was for yesterday's stream, which is, as I said when we were inking yesterday, it's, when you're working on this stuff, recognize when you're fatigued and when you've been doing this for a very long time, because by the time I got to the second panel I had done all of this first one in the same sort of session as well, and we were getting late into the evening by that point, and and I was tired more so than usual, and you lose your focus, and you really need to keep your focus when you're inking. You keep your focus, you need to have a steady hand. I'm just going to add a little bit of shading to this, to Morgan's headdress thing here. Fix up some of the details. I'm just going back and forth and I'm hitting the X button as I go to shift between black and white. And obviously this is an area where we don't need it to be perfect, because again we're just doing teeny tiny details. I almost don't need any of these lines to be too straight and too clean and too mechanical, because it's basically the headdress is just made up of tree branches, so it almost works better if it's a bit bumpy. Okay. See, that looks a whole lot better than what we started with. There's still a little bit of work to be done on the arms though. Auto save time again. I've got to wait for a second. There we go. We'll try and fix up these fingers just a little bit. truth be told, this Vista's come out kind of janky. Even that doesn't look quite right. I feel like probably the result of me bringing in the arm, this isn't tapering in enough. Okay, I think that's going to have to do for now. That was only supposed to be a diversion. What I was originally doing was working on this third panel, and then I just said I can't stand looking at the face on that any longer. And then we started going off and making all these other corrections, and there's still a lot of work to do on this fourth panel, but we'll go back and make some more corrections on the third one just now, I think, to wrap up the show today. And indeed wrap up this week on Club Corbie. This is our final stream of the week. That doesn't look right. I have a heck of a time getting these to match up. And you know, sometimes we just have to improvise to the best of our ability in terms of filling in some of these little detail bits and trying to get them to integrate with the original pen art. If we go over the panel there, that's fine. We'll just go in and hit fill and remove that. Okay, we'll probably want to add a bit down here. Oops. Do that again. There we go. Okay, this is going to sound nuts, but that particular blob down here, it's this really odd shape. I feel like it would look better if we just change that up a bit. That'll look more in keeping with the rest of them. admittedly a very odd sort of thing to quibble about. I don't know why it just didn't look like it was in keeping with the rest of them. I think the whole bottom section of this art is going to have the caption on it. I don't think it's going up top, so I'm not even sure it matters, but we'll know that it was corrected. When you see this go up on Instagram or wherever, the finished version, all of you will know, John went in and fixed that, and I was there to see it happen. Well, there we go. The end of another week of Club Corbie and another week of live streams, and we will be back on Monday. I am hoping that by Monday I'll have done all of the inking for these with fewer mistakes. I don't know what we'll be doing on Monday's stream. There's still a bit of work to do on this particular page, especially on that last panel. But I want to thank all of you who've enjoyed the streams this week. I hope you've enjoyed the streams this week. All of you who've watched, all of you who followed, all of you who continue to support this project as we near the finish line as far as this initial series of strips go, and then we can move on and we can work on some other projects as well. But it's been a turnaround of a couple of weeks, which is better than most Corbie projects, which seem to take a couple of months. So there's that at least. We should be done with this very soon. And yeah, if you want to make a contribution, everything that we do in Corbie Land is free. We give it all away for free. The comics are free. The live streams are free. So we don't make any money on Corbie up front. So if you want to contribute, it's ko-fi.com/Corbie or streamlabs.com/Kevin Morgan Corbie, and it all helps, and it will be greatly appreciated if you do. But for now, thank you from me, John, at Club Corbie, and I look forward to seeing you back in the clubhouse on Monday at 2 PM UK time.